made their way to Cyprus. So this is a danger, not only to Israel, not only to the world, not only to the region, but also to the world. We are doing everything possible to meet the objective of this operation, and this operation is working and happening hand in hand, together, shoulder to shoulder with our American friends, and we are grateful to the American President Donald Trump for his leadership and being here in this moment, working together to achieve these goals.
Can you please relate to the girls' school bombing, please?
So I'm not familiar with the details. I understand that this is under check, but I will tell you this, that the Iranian regime has been known to fabricate, to produce fake information for propaganda purposes. So you need to keep this in mind.
Well, we can see the scene.
Okay,
We can see
please,
the children's bodies.
Please. Another question, please. Okay. Yes, please.
I'll try. Do you think this is gonna resolve the issue? Is the roaring lion, we got the rising lion, the roaring lion, is this gonna do it?
The idea, the objective, is to remove this existential threat. And yes, I'm certain that at the end of this operation, this threat will be removed. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, we did want to play that out for you. The latest from the Israeli foreign minister speaking there after a missile strike occurred near Jerusalem. Wanted to make sure we're able to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break. Much more on today's top stories and breaking news after this.
Stop playing that song. Stop playing that song. Bruh, why are we on a commercial break?
Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. We do have to get to some breaking news that's just now coming down into our newsroom. Another update there on the war between the strikes that have been happening from the U.S. and Israel on Iran. This just coming down from the Israeli war room saying this: Mojtaba Khamenei, the eldest son of Iran's former supreme leader, was reportedly eliminated alongside his father. Mojtaba has been close to the IRGC and was sanctioned by the U.S. back in 2019. There was speculation that Ali Khamenei's succession plans did include Mojtaba as well. And so what we'll continue to do is give you some background here. You might be wondering to yourself, what more do we know about Mojtaba? We do know that Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, has now died, triggering a succession process through an 88-member clerical panel that must select his replacement as soon as possible. Khamenei's son, Mashtaba, was a potential contender, though the dynastic succession was possibly going to spark some anger among Iranians and even system supported who saw it as un-Islamic. The supreme leader, though, does wield vast power there in the country over Iran's military, and the Revolutionary Guard is the final decision maker when it comes to the matters of state in that theocracy. But ultimately, this just coming down to us here from the Israeli war room. They are now reporting that Mashtaba Khamenei, the eldest son of Iran's former supreme leader, has reportedly been killed alongside his father. If there are any other updates that come to us here, or if we're able to get some other sources within the Trump administration,
Oh my goodness, they are just
we'll bring it to you here.
dropping people.
In the meantime, let's take this opportunity to slide away for our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour. Stay right here with us.
Welcome to the Undertone Podcast, where we talk about all things creepy.
We'll be listening to a series of audio files
on Friday the 13th.
Nah, I'm good.
This feels different.
Critics are calling
I'm not trying to see no scary movie.
Israel. I don't see them active at the moment on the SOFAR red alert map, so I'll wait and see if we get an update on those from the Israeli military.
I'm assuming this is... I thought they were doing this in Pakistan or something.
حبيبي عمو لا توقف تصوير يا قناه بالتليفون بالتليفون صديقي
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone.
Greg Abbott. He says this: Texans mourned with the families and loved ones of those who were horrifically killed in last night's attack in Austin. Cecilia and I pray for them, and we pray for the swift recovery of those who were injured. I have been in contact with the Mayor Watson and the DPS Director Martin, have ordered the full support of the state of Texas.
This is
to ensure
crazy.
all assistance resources are
Y'all about to
deployed.
get drafted.
I do want to put that statement up in full on your screen as well, so you're able to see it a bit closer alongside with me here. It does continue to say this. It says, this act of violence will not define us, nor will it shake the resolve of Texans. To anyone who thinks about using the current conflict in the Middle East to threaten Texas or our critical infrastructure, understand this clearly. Texas will respond with decisive and overwhelming force to protect our state. Yesterday, I directed the Texas Military Department to activate service members under Operation Fury Shield to work alongside state and federal partners to safeguard our communities and critical infrastructure. Patrols have been increased at vital energy facilities, ports, and along our border. We have bolstered cybersecurity personnel and deployed unmanned aerial surveillance to monitor and protect critical infrastructure sites. I also directed the Texas Department of Public Safety and Texas National Guard to intensify patrols and surveillance. Texas is relentlessly working with our federal partners to ensure every necessary resource is deployed to defend our communities. It does wrap up here by saying this. And today, I directed the DPS to increase patrols and add law enforcement personnel in the 6th Street District and downtown Austin during the weekends. We must ensure boots are on the ground to discourage criminal activity. Texans are strong. We will not be intimidated, and we will not be terrorized. We will defend our state without hesitation. Again, the full statement there from Texas Governor Greg Abbott in response to that shooting that occurred. I do want to also put this up on your screen. I believe this is still a live look that we have there in Austin, Texas, just so we're able to see an overview of the city. If we do get any other updates, we got a brief one earlier today from some of those officials. It was about 10 minutes in length. They were announcing that the FBI is now investigating whether or not this shooting is tied to the Iran conflict. But that statement there from the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, saying that all of their resources will be used to help Texans during this time. Wanted to make sure we were able to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox, but also a view there of some of what we know. That mass shooting left 3 people dead, 14 people injured as well early this morning. Fox News has since reported and shown, as we did here as well,
Ooh, I didn't know there was a shooting
of that alleged suspect, saying that they were wearing a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah." The FBI, again, is investigating this incident for any ties to terrorism and the strikes on Iran. We did want to make sure we were able to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. Also want to show you this from the Associated Press as we're waiting to continue to watch if there are any other updates that will eventually come out. But again, the AP is reporting that that suspect in the Texas bar shooting was wearing that same clothing, saying "Property of Allah," and had an Iranian flag design as well. Want to make sure we're able to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, I do want to check in with some of our partners as they've been in-depthly covering what we're watching unfold there in the Middle East. We're going to check in with our partners at Fox 5 DC as they put out a segment this morning diving into the topic. Let's listen in.
Welcome back on the Hill. Iran is vowing revenge for the death of its supreme leader and has retaliated against several other Arab Gulf countries. Meanwhile, the Israeli military says 40 Iranian military officials were killed in the strikes. So Who's in charge right now, and what are Iran's military capabilities? Well, we want to welcome back in Rebecca Grant. She is a national security analyst and senior fellow at the Lexington Institute. Rebecca, always good to see you. What do we make of the fact that, unlike some of these previous responses from Iran, this one has been somewhat limited? Iran does not seem to have the capability of large missile strikes as they have had in the past.
Yes, although their choice to strike their Gulf neighbors and to target U.S. bases has really changed this game. Our U.S. forces are playing both offense, carrying out additional strikes, and playing defense at this point. The IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, of course, they're the ones that are doing this. And I think we're going to see some continued drone and missile strikes, but it is not at the size that we saw in 2024. Their capabilities are diminishing, and we have U.S. Space Force watching every move, Air Force and Navy pilots on cap, and of course, incredible missile defenses from destroyers right through to the Patriot and THAAD batteries.
So, Rebecca, stay on that for a moment, because you might expect Iran would retaliate against Israel, and there was an attack on a U.S. naval facility in Bahrain. But why is Iran striking out at Arab countries that had nothing to do with this operation?
It is their arrogance, their defiance, and Tom, it shows you exactly why Operation Epic Fury had to happen. The major driver of this campaign is getting after and obliterating the rest of that ballistic missile target set. And I'm telling you, every time Iran launches a missile, our forces, Space Force, and on down see that. It actually extends the number of targets that we're going to go after. So they shoot, and we're going to clean them out. And you can, if there was any doubt in anyone's mind, Iran has made it very clear that this campaign had to happen. And that's the number one measure of our success, is getting rid of that military capacity in Iran.
There's an old farm saying you can cut the head off a chicken, but the chicken will still run around in the yard. Right now, Iran's military is operational despite the death of the Ayatollah. What do we know about who's in charge?
Well, of course, Iran does have a president, not sure of his status, but what you're seeing now is actions taken by the lower level of the military and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The process is for an assembly to come together and pick a new supreme leader at some point. That's how it would typically go. But this is the moment for the Iranian people to try and challenge that. We would love to see a different setup there in Iran. Until that happens, we're going to see these one-off kind of launch on authority types of strikes. That's why we've got to keep the campaign going and achieve those military objectives.
Rebecca, there were those large-scale strikes at the end of June by the U.S., and the administration said that Iran's nuclear capability was completely obliterated. So was that true? And what do we make of future statements now if Iran still did have some nuclear capability that was a threat?
Yes, the B-2s took out the machinery and processes to make nuclear weapons. Still in Iran, 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium. Tom, they could put that into a small dirty bomb or Hiroshima-style device, but the ability to go forward with enrichment and nuclear weapons was obliterated. However, what the deal was for the UN to come in and inspect, and none of this would have happened, but Iran said no. They were defiant, insisted on continuing enriching, and that has led to the doom of this regime.
Rebecca Grant is a senior fellow at the Lexington Institute. Rebecca, we thank you so much for your insight and analysis. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, as we continue.
All right, so we certainly appreciate Fox 5 DC and their On the Hill show, where they're able to break down some of the top political questions that we're watching. All of this, of course, focusing on what we're seeing unfold there in the Middle East. We are going to take this opportunity to slide away for our first 2-minute commercial break of the hour. On the other side, though, we'll be taking things to Washington, D.C. You may be asking yourself, what's next when it comes to members of Congress, as we've been watching all of this unfold with the strikes with the U.S. and Israel in Iran, and some of those retaliatory strikes that have also been happening in the region. We'll be speaking to one of our experts in just 2 minutes about what to watch on Capitol Hill. Stay with us.
Y'all about to get drafted. Y'all about to get drafted. I didn't know there was a shooting in Texas. And it said something. They already here, bruh. They already here. Is there still a government shutdown? Is there still a government shutdown? Okay, it says we're still in a government shutdown. Texas. Suspect in Texas shooting wore property of Allah clothing with Iranian flag. FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force investigating mass shooting at Austin Bar near UT campus.
Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. We do want to continue on with our conversation.
Oh, he's
as we're
black.
watching all of this unfold, not only there in the Middle East, but some of the aftermath here in the United States. I do want to put this up on your screen. It's a live look that we have there in Washington, D.C. We do know that over the weekend, Democrats have now urged Congress to now quickly vote on a war powers resolution. This comes after the Trump administration launched those overnight strikes on Iran. President Trump launched these strikes ultimately without the input from Congress. This is now triggering backlash from Democrats and one Republican as well. So to talk a lot more about what this means and what we'll be watching as we head into the next week, I want to bring into the conversation political analyst Brian Sobel. Brian, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, it's a lot to watch as we've been seeing and focusing a lot of our coverage on the aftermath there in the Middle East. But folks here at home are also going to be watching this week to see how Congress responds to these initial strikes. I want to ask you first, why is Congress now calling for this vote? What does this ultimately mean?
There are members of Congress, mostly on the Democrat side of the aisle, who are not happy with Donald Trump in general. This would be one more piece of evidence of that, the strikes on Iran. And we have to keep this in the context of the midterms, the elections coming up in November, where Democrats hope to gain seats in the House and the Senate. And so there is this effort to, as usual, not give the president credit for anything, but to suggest that the president is entirely wrong here. That's to be expected. It goes back in history that the opposition party will not really give a lot of credit to the current president in whatever circumstance they're in.
And so you see this there from the Associated Press saying that key members of Congress are demanding this swift vote on the War Powers resolution that would restrain President Trump's military attack on Iran unless the administration wins their approval for that they are now calling a potentially illegal campaign. And so, Brian, when it comes to sort of this conversation that is ongoing, we do know that this references the War Powers vote and how the president's power does extend beyond what we see there with Congress. We do know that Congress does have is the only person with the fact to declare war formally, if I'm not mistaken there. So what does the president...
You're correct. That's in the Constitution.
Absolutely. So what does that mean for your president? Why would President Trump kind of have the power to make sure that these strikes did go off without having to seek Congress's approval first?
Well, any president has the ability, when they deem that there's an imminent threat, to launch an attack, as Donald Trump has done here. The word war is the critical word I'm hearing from some Democrats on the Hill, that once it moved from the immediate threat to the homeland, to war, that required a vote of the Congress, and the Congress does have that rests within the Constitution to declare war. It is their responsibility. However, we have seen over many, many years, in all administrations, frankly, this ability to go in and take action against countries, against other armies, navies, air forces, whatever we needed to take on. That has been going on for a long time. And frankly, the president, to be honest about this, if there were a resolution that passed, and I think that would be in doubt, but if it did pass, the president can veto it. So what it becomes is a symbolic gesture by opponents of the president. I don't think we're hearing Democrats in Congress concerned about anything other than Donald Trump taking an excess here. Everybody supports our troops. We pray for our troops. We're sorry to hear that we already have sustained some losses, but this is a political matter in the internals of the United States, and again with the backdrop, Christina, of the midterms coming here just in a few short months.
It is interesting to watch all of this unfold, and that helps to paint the picture as well. We do have this from Representative Hakeem Jeffries. He's been one of the loudest on this issue there on the Democratic side, saying that Donald Trump promised to keep America out of costly and endless foreign wars. He is now doing the exact opposite in the Middle East. Congress must vote on the War Powers Resolution immediately. He did two things there that you pointed out. He used the word war, which, again, we've not seen that formally used yet by the president. He said these are strikes that were about imminent danger. And also there, Brian, you made a comment saying that ultimately this is just going to be something that's symbolic. Why is that important for the Democrats to call for this? Why would they want to do this, to get this written down at this point there on Capitol Hill?
Assuming they could get the votes for a war resolution or an anti-war resolution, they can use that on the campaign trail to...
The sun is dying. If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go extinct.
I am a teacher at Grover Cleveland Middle.
You are the only scientist who might know what this says.
Bruh, I can't even skip this.
Oh my god. So, I met an alien.
It's at the top. It's at the top.
Donald Trump called this a war on Iran. And so that word is important, but it's not ultimately in terms of a resolution, because again, if a resolution were to be passed, essentially Donald Trump has the power to veto it anyway.
And it is important to note that a war powers resolution that was aimed at stopping the administration's operation in Venezuela did fail in January in both the House and the Senate. So we have seen this before as well. Ultimately, as we're looking ahead, lastly, Brian, on this part of the conversation, what do Republicans, or how do we expect Republicans to now respond to this? Are they going to allow this to move forward in any sense, or are they going to also use this as an opportunity to make a statement?
Good point. I think they are going to utilize it as an opportunity to point out the egregious nature of the Iranian government, what's left of it now, but before these strikes, and the things they did around the world and to American service personnel. This is a corrupt, bad, terrible regime, and I don't think anybody in the world thinks otherwise. Maybe Russia and China, North Korea somehow find some cooperation with Iran to be in their best interest, but Iran has tried to control the Middle East for all these years, for nearly 5 decades, and sending out their proxies to do terrible things. Eventually, these despotic regimes do fall, but this one's lasted for a very long time.
And so as we're looking ahead, I also wanted to bring some response there on the screen from some of those Republicans, including Representative Jimmy Patronis from Florida, the Republican. He joined us here on Live Now yesterday to sort of give his initial thoughts and reaction to the strikes that took place overseas. But now, Brian, I want to move on and talk about also what comes in the next few hours. We do know that 4 p.m. Eastern time, it's scheduled that those GOP lawmakers are going to be briefed on the Iran strikes. What potentially does that conversation look like there on Capitol Hill?
They will get a pretty comprehensive briefing, Christina, from the military, from the Pentagon, talking about the success, what successes they can talk about since the beginning of the strikes. They will talk about targets. They will talk about BDA, bomb damage assessments, the need to go back in and re-hit certain targets that they've already hit. It was also announced that we did end up sending these ground penetrating bombs, these bunker busters, in as well to go after the tunnel systems where ballistic missiles are being kept. They'll be briefed on that. They'll be briefed on numbers generally, how many fighter jets we have in the air. They'll be briefed somewhat on the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and their efforts. Recall, we had a bifurcated effort. We had American target lists. The Israelis had a decapitation of the Iranian leadership and other targets on their list. They will go over all of that. I think members of the GOP will get a pretty thorough briefing.
All right, and so we're also showing here on your screen, we appreciate that insight, Brian, just some video footage of some of the strikes in retaliatory nature that have been happening overseas in response to the initial strikes that that Israel and the U.S. has done. Before I let you go, Brian, I want to take things still here stateside, and stepping away from some of the political aspects, but we did potentially see the FBI is now investigating. There's a possible link in a terror attack that happened in Austin, Texas. That again, they're saying that this is being investigated as a possible terror attack. It was a mass shooting that took place in the downtown area. 3 people were killed, 14 others were injured in that shooting. And there was also information that came out about that alleged suspect saying that they were showing up there to make a political statement. As we're watching all this unfold, is this something that we could have potentially expected as actors around the world are now responding to the moves that the Trump administration and Israel have now done?
No question. I think we're going to see these one-offs for the foreseeable future, certainly through all of the action in Iran. These are people that gained entry to the United States illegally, have been sitting there waiting for an opportunity to do something bad. And this person who was killed in Texas after shooting a number of people outside a bar there and may be connected, at least from an allegiance standpoint, to the Iranians and the regime, is to be expected. When you don't have control of your border, you don't know who's here. We have a lot of Chinese nationals that are here, and we don't know why they're here. But it's certainly not because they think America's a great place to live. We've already caught some of those people with different chemicals and biologicals in storage containers. One wonders why they are storing those, but it's probably for nefarious reasons. So an open border provides an opportunity for a lot of bad actors to come into a country, in this case ours, and we're going to have to expect to see some of this.
We do also have up on the screen, as we hit it as breaking news, the statement that Governor Greg Abbott has since said, but he basically wanted to give the sense to Texans that they are going to fight back against any potential terrorist attacks that might happen in response to these attacks. Lastly, Brian, before I let you go, we're just getting this feed in. As I've been talking to you behind the scenes, our producers were working to identify where exactly this is happening. So since I have you here on the line, we're getting new images and video footage of protests that are happening in the green zone in Baghdad. We do know that this is near where the U.S. Embassy is based there in Iraq. This is in response to the strikes that initially happened. And some of these folks, as we're hearing from our partners at Reuters, are holding flags supporting the Iranian regime. Of course, this has all happened in the wake of the Ayatollah's death. We're watching this unfold. Is this also something that we could have seen coming as some of the Gulf nations are now responding to the attacks and protesters now taking to the street?
No question. And we saw an incident at the U.S. Embassy in Karachi, Pakistan. Same sort of thing as you're seeing in Baghdad. The Iranian nation has been supporting, monetarily and otherwise, a lot of these cells around the world. And so the call goes out to begin taking action. The green zone in Baghdad is, of course, very well known to a lot of viewers as the place where embassies are. It's highly protected, just like in Karachi, where 6 protesters, pro-Iranian protesters, were shot as they were trying to, and killed as they were trying to breach the American embassy there. And by the way, our embassies are very well protected. And so, this is symbolic, Christina, and we're going to see more of this as well.
So we'll have to continue to keep our eyes on this. Of course, we've acknowledged it during this interview as well. 3 service members have been killed in the wake of all of these strikes so far, U.S. service members specifically, 5 others injured. But again, these are images just now coming to us live from Baghdad. So I wanted to make sure we were able to show it on air for folks at Live Now from Fox. Brian, as always, I appreciate your time. Any final thoughts before I let you go? Anything else we should be looking at here as this continues to go into the coming days?
Well, my only thought today is for our military service members, that they are as safe as they can be, carrying out the orders of the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, and we wish them every success in this mission.
All right, we certainly appreciate Brian Sobel for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. Still more to uncover in the coming hours. New information comes to us, and we'll make sure to give you guys the latest updates. Thanks so much, Brian.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
You too. And so what I want to do now is also put up some other international reaction that's coming into our newsroom as well. This is from Zelensky, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president there in Ukraine, saying this: "We are now closely monitoring every change in the situation around Iran. Ukrainian intelligence, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, everyone is engaged. We are in coordination with partners. It is important that this chance for change for Iran be used properly. The Iranian people have long effectively been alone against violence, against the Iranian regime. This regime, which has killed tens of thousands of its own citizens in just recent months, which has always fueled and organized wars in the region, which provided Russia with Shaheds and the technology for their production. This regime has brought this attitude upon itself. It is important that there be a clear position in support of people and human life. It is important that American determination, the determination of everyone in the world, truly work. I thank everyone who is trying to prevent the war from expanding and who is defending against strikes from Iran. And I also thank everyone who tells Russia, now based on the experience of the Iranian regime, that justice does come." Once again, that's a statement that we got in here from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. We also want to put this one up on your screen from the leader in India as well. And we do have this to say: "I had a telephone call with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the current regional situation, conveyed India's concerns over recent developments, and emphasized the safety of civilians as a priority. India reiterates the need for early cessation of hostilities." And so he added Benjamin Netanyahu in that post as well. These world leaders, we've been getting some of their reaction. We heard from Keir Starmer on video yesterday, also heard last night from the Australian Prime Minister. That's going to continue to happen, and we want to make sure that we're bringing those updates here on Live Now from Fox. We are going to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break, but much more on our coverage after this.
The fact that these people can go live for this long, I don't know how y'all could do it. Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, people are running. Hold on a second. I have a quick update here. The Daily Mail has just come out with an article, the Daily Mail, and they said that they interviewed Trump on the phone. And they said, the Daily Mail says, Trump also revealed a potential timeline for the war with Iran, suggesting fighting could go on for the next 4 weeks. Trump said, "It's always been a 4-week process. We figured it will be 4 weeks or so. It's always been about a 4-week process. So as strong as it is, it's a big country. It'll take 4 weeks or less," the president explained. That is a new article from the Daily Mail.
It's that banging sound.
Look at this. Hold on, man. Hold on. 1 minute. We're getting some AP sound. AP sound there, sorry. Hold on a moment. Hold on. We have a new pre-warning, new missile pre-warning. Hang on a moment. We have a new missile pre-warning from Israel. Missile alerts expected. There's been some funkiness with the cameras today. I haven't got a straight answer yet from AP, but it sounds like their Tel Aviv camera, they cannot actually show the missiles coming in. I think there's some kind of government thing going on, but let me see what I have for you in terms of cameras. I have some cameras. I have a Tel Aviv view from afar, so we're going to put that on the screen right now. Give me a moment here. Let me get that up on the screen, and we'll see where the alerts come in. But again, AP seems to be unable to be allowed. They're not allowed, it looks like, to show their Tel Aviv cam during the actual when the missiles are coming in. All right, give me a moment here. Let me just do this and this. Okay, that right there is a live view of looking towards Tel Aviv. That is from Ramallah. And let me get another camera up here. We also have a Haifa cam. I do have a different Tel Aviv cam. I have a different Tel Aviv cam. No, the problem is I had the AP Tel Aviv cam before, and when the last alert happened, they literally pointed the camera at the street. And I messaged them, and they said that there's some sort of issue that they're going to be making an announcement on. So I have noticed this with some other cameras today too. I think the government may be telling the press to not let maybe not let Iran see where the missiles are going or how the interceptions are going or something like this. But I don't have anything official on that yet. So, but it was very strange. I believe that has happened before in Israel too. I vaguely remember that happening before. So I'll have to try to. I'm waiting to get more of a statement about that. Let me try to pull up though the Tel Aviv feed from all right. Here's I have a different feed from AFP of Tel Aviv that I'll put up. And I don't know if they will be able to keep it pointed in the sky or not. We'll just have to see. This might be unmanned, I don't know. I'll do my best. I'll do my best, but we have to just make do with what we have. So we have a view of Tel Aviv. Oh, why is going on here? Yeah. The big picture is view of Tel Aviv, and the little on the top is just Tel Aviv. So there are supposed to be some new alerts soon. I do have a Haifa cam if we need it. I have a Haifa cam if we need it. Appreciate everybody watching. And we'll get back to the protests in a moment in Baghdad. But we are supposed to get
3 in 2008 tightened restrictions on dual-use goods and calling for the inspections of Iranian cargo. Resolution 1835 in 2008 reaffirmed the need for full compliance, and Resolution 1927 in 2010, which was the most comprehensive, banning ballistic missile activities, tightening the conventional arms embargo, targeting the IRGC and shipping lines, and prohibiting new Iranian banking relationships, built a robust multilateral framework to curb Iran's nuclear and missile pursuits. These measures, again, adopted under Chapter 7, represented the world's collective judgment that Iran's actions posed a threat to international peace and security. And despite numerous opportunities for an alternative path, Iran remained defiant. And the Security Council decided on September 19th of last year, 2025, to restore these measures, snap back sanctions, sending a clear message that the world will not acquiesce to threats and half measures, and Tehran would be held to account. On top of these actions by the UN, American diplomacy was attempted repeatedly and in good faith. President Trump, Secretary Rubio, our special envoys, Witkoff and Kushner, were relentlessly dedicated to diplomacy. But diplomacy cannot succeed where there is no genuine willingness to cease aggression, where there is no genuine partner for peace. As President Trump said today, and he spoke directly to the Iranian people, he said, quote, "To the proud, great people of Iran, I saw tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. The entire world has witnessed the regime's wholesale slaughter of innocent civilians. The sad irony is that this same regime will attempt to lecture us today about human rights and the rule of law. Its presence here in this council makes a mockery of this body. But where the UN lacks moral clarity, the United States of America will maintain it. Indiscriminate and unprovoked attacks by the Iranian regime today against our regional partners, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan, and others, reinforce precisely why such actions are necessary. The regime has not only struck military assets, but civilian infrastructure as well. Those who stand with us must know that their security is not negotiable. The safety of our allies is not conditional. It is assured. The bottom line is this, colleagues. Our allies and partners can count on the United States and can count on President Trump. Colleagues, peace is not preserved by appeasing those who threaten it. Peace is preserved through strength in the face of terror. History has taught us that the cost of inaction is far greater than the burden of decisive action. And our president, President Trump, has taken that decisive action today. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, so we did just want to play out a few moments that we heard from Ambassador Mike Waltz, that statement that he gave to the United Nations. Now, just a few moments ago, while we were listening into some of those comments, I'm going to play this out for you because it happened within the last minute or so. We got this feed that's looking at the skies in areas over Israel. We were watching as this happened here. You can see it there. There was another round of some of these retaliatory strikes seeming to happen there as well. And so what you're seeing, it will continue to watch to see how some of these missiles are being intercepted, and also watching as other launches are happening there.
I think they intercepted, I know the UAE intercepted like over 200 something.
And what this looks like in the area over Israel. And so we've been
UAE
watching all of this
intercepted how many
unfold
missiles?
throughout the last few days as these initial strikes happen in the overnight hours on Saturday. And so with that being said, we are now in this window heading into 48 hours or so since those initial strikes. But we've been watching some of the footage now coming to us from the skyline there in Israel as well. And so if anything changes or if we get any other updates, I'll make sure to bring it to you here on Live Now from Fox. We are going to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break. On the other side, much more on today's top stories.
Iran was trying to destroy the UAE. So the UAE intercepted and destroyed 132 to 165 ballistic missiles and over 500 drones launched from Iran. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they were trying to destroy the UAE. I don't think they're going to tell me how many Israel's intercepted. I'm trying to figure out, why is Nike shorts $70? I just need one pair of shorts. Like, damn.
Thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. As we're taking yet another live look there in the region, we've been watching the skies over Israel in places like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, as well as we're watching to see if more retaliatory strikes come from Iran in the hours since the initial launches by the United States and the Israeli military. So from time to time, you are going to see this camera zoom in onto some of those spots where we might be seeing some smoke there on the ground. Of course, we know a little bit about the Iron Dome there in the region and how it does work to intercept missile launches. And right now, we do want to talk about some of the military components of this entire operation. And so I do want to bring into this conversation right now Stefano Rittendale. He's the Chief Intelligence Officer for Artorias. Stefano, thank you so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a lot that's unfolding. We have live images right now watching as all of this is unfolding in the Middle East. But we're also just now learning a bit of new information about some of the aspects that were used in this attack that happened initially by the United States. And so I want to put this up on the screen for you as well as folks at home. It's a look at some of what we've been seeing. This is from Phil Stewart with Reuters. CENTCOM says that the U.S. military assets that were used against Iran include B-2 stealth bombers, Lucas drones, Patriot interceptors. While that doesn't sound like a whole lot to me, I'm sure you're able to help us make sense of it. So I'd like you to sort of look at this list and take away, what are you seeing here? What does this indicate about this operation?
Well, one, it shows it's a very comprehensive military operation. So if we go through the list, the B-2 stealth bombers, I think now a lot of people in the United States are very familiar with it because of last year, Operation Midnight Hammer, where it destroyed the Iranian nuclear facilities in Fordow. The B-2 stealth bomber is, as the name is, a stealth bomber, and they're based out of the United States, and they've launched out of Missouri. They're capable of operating around the world, and we did see them being utilized last night. There's not something you're going to see consistently, persistently over Iran, but those are used for very deep strikes, generally against very high-level targets. And since they can carry significantly larger payloads, you might see them utilize much more large, expansive bombs, specifically designed for bunker busting capabilities. And that's why they were used against the nuclear facility in Fordow, because it was deep underground. So the B-2 bombers can carry those bombs, can operate stealth where radar can't detect it, and that's why they're a very excellent asset and a strategic asset used for very high-risk mission sets. The Lucas drones is actually something that's very new in the U.S. military capability, extremely new. And the irony of this situation is basically reverse engineered technology from the Shahed 136, which is an Iranian one-way attack drone. They're very cheap to produce, very easily to mass distribute, and they've been launched. And this is their first combat employment that we've seen in Iran. And again, they mirror what the Iranians had, the Shahed 136. The Russians used it to launch against Ukraine, and the United States said we wanted something, a similar capability, a one-way attack drone, very simple to make, mass distribute, and launch, and they have been extensively used against Iran currently. That other system that you're seeing right now live, that's the HIMARS. The HIMARS is the launcher. And then what they have is the kind of, what's more importantly from the HIMARS, it's the missile systems, right? Because the HIMARS is just the vehicle. And the missile system that they're using right now is called the ATACMS. The ATACMS is basically a long-range missile with, the public undeclassified setting is about 300 kilometers reach, over 200 miles, that can impact large areas inside of Iran as well, specifically on the coast. Those have been those are used by the army and are used to kind of deploy and to conduct strikes against, very strategic level assets as well. Other added systems here, as you see a lot of these right here, your airborne early warning communications, those are very important for command and control since most of this is being done by the air, both with the U.S. and Israel. You do need those capabilities to do a lot of crosstalk between U.S. and Israeli military. One of the interesting aspects that we've seen that I've kind of noticed is that there is a lot of interoperability between the United States and Israel's Air Force and ability to do joint operations and combined strikes. And that's, generally the United States has that level of experience and expertise with our NATO allies, or under NORAD, if you look with the U.S. and Canadian Air Force, where there's a lot of coordination. This latest round demonstrates that the United States and Israel have very deep level of cooperations in air campaigns, and those systems are important. The rest of those, like the P-8s, RC-135s, are intelligence platforms, and then we've seen a lot of assets and jets that are being utilized for strikes and air superiority as well.
That's helpful to kind of understand a little bit more of the scope, but really knowing that it's a more complicated mission, that the United States had to work closely with Israel on this. And so when it comes to sort of military and not even the importance, but just who has the bigger guns, let's just say it pretty frankly here. The United States has always talked about its abilities overseas. Were we able to really see this sort of make its way through in this current attack that happened? Also, you did reference Operation Midnight Hammer that happened last summer.
Right. So, if one thing the United States military is well known for is probably two things. And I think most American people won't really think about it because they think about firepower. But your firepower is only as good as your ability to deploy it and to sustain it. And that's why the United States ability from an expedition perspective, we can operate anywhere around the world on short notice. And more importantly, we can sustain that fight. And our logistics capabilities and our ability to feed, maintain, and sustain it really puts us, in our own separate category that not even Russia or China can do. And that's really, I think, the paramount aspects and why we're fighting superior in many aspects in our ability to conduct these operations halfway around the world and really strike at a lot of areas inside of Iran. It's our ability to sustain it. Even though it took weeks and we've seen it, I think President Trump made the decision to do regime change operations. So the U.S. military ensured that he had the assets available to execute this mission and be successful once the order was given, which was given yesterday.
All right, and so we're watching all this unfold. Yet another list of some of those that we're watching here. It was a refueling tanker aircraft that was used, counter drone systems. I have to ask you about these counter drone systems. That jumps out to me on the page.
Yep.
Stefano, when we're looking at this, we just saw some of the action there in Israel of the Iron Dome at work as it was intercepting missiles. Is that similar to the counter drone situation? I'm trying to understand how this works when it comes to those attacks that are happening and trying to prevent their impact as Iran strikes back.
Right. So I think it's actually important to know when we're talking about the Iron Dome specifically, the Iron Dome is designed for, as you said, the drones, but they're designed to, and this might seem, pedantic, but what they're actually designed to intercept are rockets, and they were mainly designed to intercept rockets from Hezbollah and Hamas, right? Rockets are generally shorter range. They don't have the altitude or the speed, and they were really designed to really help those communities not get overwhelmed by the rockets. The problem that with the Iron Dome is they're not actually designed to intercept ballistic missiles. And so the ballistic missiles to intercept it, if you've seen on the list earlier, there was two systems really laid out from the U.S. perspective, which was the Patriots and the THAAD. Right? Those are systems that the U.S. deployed into the Middle East extensively because those are the ones that can destroy and intercept Iranian ballistic missiles. The Israelis have other systems such as the David Sling and the Arrow. And what we talk about, and with the drones, what we're talking about from a military term perspective is an integrated air defense system, or an IADS as its acronyms. And what it is basically like an onion with different layers. And all those layers are designed to intercept various different threats. So a rocket, for example, since it's an immediate short term, would be, for example, something like the Iron Domes, counter drone systems, both lasers or non-kinetics like EW, electronic warfare. That's another layer. And then you kind of go up from there, from Patriots, THAAD, your Aegis naval destroyers, and that's how you destroy a lot of the threats. And that's what Iran has as a threat. It's the ballistic missiles, the drones, and the cruise missiles. And the U.S. and Israel is postured with all those systems to defeat it whenever they're launched against them.
It's interesting to see how all of this now works together when you're talking about an operation. All of the people that are also involved, I have to imagine, to pull all of this off. And so, Stefano, I do want to talk about some of the targets that was also released. This has just also been released and reported on by the Associated Press and Reuters as well. I'm going to put them up on the screen. We can go through them. They're not extensive at this point, but the U.S. military lists some of those targets, including the Command and Control Centers, the IRGC Joint Headquarters, the IRGC Aerospace Forces Headquarters, the Integrated Air Defense Systems, ballistic missile sites. The list continues on to say the Iranian naval ships, Iranian Navy submarines, military communication capabilities, and anti-ship missile sites. A lot to unpack there with some of these targeted sites. Stefano, what sticks out to you from that list? What really is one of the importance of the of the United States and Israel targeting these specific sites?
Well, what's interesting in what we're seeing is the United States is having a focus on the IRGC. So the IRGC is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And so the Iran, how they have their militaries, they have their normal military, which is called the Aratesh, which is what we're familiar with ours. And then they have the IRGC. The IRGC is more designed to protect the Islamic nature of the country and the Islamic Revolution. And they have their own ground forces, naval forces, and aerospace forces, which is that third bullet. And that's a key aspect because the aerospace forces are the people that control the drones that you're seeing launch. And more importantly, they also control the ballistic missiles. And the ballistic missiles, the military command in Iran is called the Al-Ghadir Missile Command, AGMC. They're under the IRGC aerospace forces. So when you see those two items on the list, what that is telling you is this: the United States and Israel is trying to strike those military units that have the ability to punch back. We're trying to prevent Iran's ability to punch back. The naval side of the house, what's also very interesting, and President Trump already stated in a statement that 9 naval warships have been sunk. That's the ability to prevent Iran from trying to close the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz is an international shipping lane, vital for oil shipping and transshipment around the world, and any disruption there will have broad-based impacts on the price of oil, and more importantly to the American people, the price of gas. And so we're trying to destroy that capability that Iran has to make sure they cannot shut down the Straits of Hormuz or disrupt it or line mines. And then, the military communications capabilities, what's really important about that is we're trying to prevent the Iranians' ability to kind of do command and control, and that kind of goes to the headquarters that we saw in the first slides, right? The IRGC headquarters and kind of these command headquarters. We're trying to prevent Iran from having a centralized communication perspective and an ability to communicate across its force, because unlike the U.S. military, which is very much more decentralized, and we thrive in this ability of pushing decisions to its lower levels. Most authoritarian governments, to include Iran, don't really succeed in that. And generally, when you lose that communications from your higher headquarters and your generals, you kind of invite chaos and indecisions, and you're preventing Iran the ability to coordinate responses. And we've kind of seen that already, where a lot of these strikes doesn't really seem to be much more very centralized and planned accordingly, and it seems much more disjointed. And although there might be a quantity perspective in the Iranians' retaliations, it's not necessarily a quality perspective of really degrading Israel and U.S.'s military capabilities into doing strikes inside of Iran.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question. On the flip side of this, we've seen these retaliatory strikes happening from Iran. What kind of military capabilities, though, do they have to continue to try to strike, to launch missiles towards Israel or other locations? But as you mentioned, we've seen some of these attacks also reaching places like the Dubai International Airport and other countries as well.
Right, and so I think that's the problem, right, is that what we've seen is that Iran has decided to take strikes against civilian targets, which is always very kind of difficult. And the thing is, Iran has the largest ballistic missile force in the Middle East. Obviously, that's one of the key aspects, as we heard in your previous segment with the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Walls, kind of alluding to that as a threat. That's probably the key capability they had, that they can really strike. And then they had their drones and their cruise missiles. And that's where we've seen the vast majority of their capabilities to attack the region. One of the aspects where the United States, and we've really seen Israel specifically focus on, is the launchers, right? Because you can have a lot of missiles, but if you don't have the launchers to be able to launch those systems, now you're having a problem. And that's where I think the United States and Israel are trying to find. But that's very difficult. I mean, think about it like this. Iran is a very large country, and you're trying to basically find a vehicle, something as the size of a tractor trailer, something that would be considered the size of, larger than the state of Nebraska. I mean, it's a very hard thing to do for any military, but that's what we're seeing Israel really try to do. Obviously, the problem set for Israel is in some areas a little bit easier than, let's say, Dubai. Israel is protected by distance, so there are only a certain amount of missiles that Iran has in their arsenals that can reach Israel, but others like Dubai, which is a lot closer, what Iran has in their capabilities and arsenals is a lot more expansive. But the strikes that we're seeing both the United States and Israel do right now are really trying to prevent Iran from sustaining their offensive capabilities for the next couple of days and week, and try to limit as much as capabilities they have right now.
It's all fascinating to try to understand the military mind and what happens here as it's unfolding in front of us. So we certainly appreciate you, Stefano, for joining us on Live Now from Fox. We'd love to have you back on as well as this situation continues to develop there in the Middle East.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, what we're going to do now is take this opportunity to step away for our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour, but much more on these top stories and diving into what we're seeing happening as these strikes are still ongoing in some of the skies over Jerusalem at this hour. After this, stay right here with us.
Back to my boy. Back to my boy. Fast forward. We'll come back in 2 minutes.
Hold on. Hold on. Manny Fabian says, footage shows the site of an Iranian ballistic missile impact on a road in the Jerusalem area. So there's a crater there. I don't know if you can see this. This is from Manny's post. There's a crater there, and there's a car on the edge of the crater. You guys see this? If I'm seeing this right. I don't know how many hit sites there are. So I'll keep an eye out to see what else we learn. At least 7 people being treated for injuries after Iranian missile barrage. Okay. I-24 News says at least 7 people being treated for injuries after this latest missile barrage. And I don't have video from the scene yet. I may get it. We're hearing sirens. This a missile apparently hit a road in Jerusalem.
Hold on, I just read chat. What the? Why is this trash on my screen? Stop it. Atlantic City looks like caca. First off, I'm about to block you.
Update from...
Damn, I can't block you.
Hang on. Take this there. Just make sure I have the right feed on here. Yes, Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem, view of Jerusalem area. So the MDA, which is the Emergency Medical
I guess it was from like an hour ago or something.
They say
MLR
I have to pull this
able.
Up. Oh, a 50-year-old man is in moderate condition and 5 injured people in light condition. That is from the MDA. And they posted a photo.
State-sanctioned hatred. And while those March Bar chants echoed, uranium was enriched, centrifuges span, missiles were built, facilities were buried deep underground.
They have an Islamic Republic speaker or representative there talking to.
It was preparation for action. But today, alongside our ally, the United States, we act to stop it. Israel stands before you today, having acted with the United States to confront and stop an existential threat before it became irreversible. The operation targets nuclear infrastructure, ballistic missile sites, the machinery of repression that fuels terror across our region. We did not act of impulse. We did not act of aggression. We acted out of necessity because the Iranian regime left no reasonable alternative. This joint effort will continue for as long as the threat remains. We thank President Trump and acknowledge the close cooperation between Israel and the US, which has brought the alliance between our countries to an all-time high in peace and in war. Let us be clear about what we are confronting. This regime has built nuclear weapons in blatant disregard of international law and UN resolutions. It has brutally murdered its own citizens and crushed dissent. It's happened now as we speak in cities in Iran. It has expanded missile arsenals and armed proxies across the region. It has openly declared its intention to erase Israel from the map. Now, as it faces consequences, it is launching missiles and drones across the region, endangering the UAE, where a Pakistani citizen, unfortunately, was killed. Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq. As we speak, in the last hour, a rocket targeted the city of Tel Aviv. Civilians, they don't target military bases. Civilians struck a building in Tel Aviv. An innocent woman was killed, and 21 people were injured. This is a regime that destabilizes wherever it reaches. It spreads violence outward while crushing freedom at home. It is not reacting, it is expanding. It is a machinery of radicalism that does not recognize borders. Mr. President, diplomacy was exhausted. Iran was required to stop enriching uranium, stop heavy water projects, stop developing nuclear-capable missiles, and allow full inspections. Iran did none of it. Instead, it fortified its nuclear facilities, so we cannot get to them.
What do you mean that's a lie?
Accelerated missile production and continue to fund
Which
terror.
part?
Since the last
All
operation
of it?
in the
Some
summer,
of it?
they spent billions on the proxies. The resolutions were clear. The strategy was just as clear. Delay, delay, delay. But we will not be played. And it's simple what they were planning. They were building the means to corner us, to force an irreversible reality with our backs against the wall. That is not a future Israel will accept. No responsible nation should. This operation is guided by clear objectives: eliminate immediate threats, dismantle the nuclear program, destroy its ballistic missile production, neutralize naval threats.
Okay, where is he
break the
sitting?
proxy network that
That would be crazy if
destabilizes
they
the
put
region.
him next
The
to
operation
Israel.
was carried out in order to protect the people of Israel within the framework of the ongoing armed conflict between Israel and Iran, in line with the UN Charter and in accordance with international law.
The crazy thing is
forces
this
stand
probably
ready
is
to
all
stop
going to get
extremism
settled
armed with
at
nuclear
this
weapons.
building, not even on
To the soldiers of the IDF,
the
our boys and girls, my son, my daughter, we salute you. You stand like lions defending our people. An entire nation stands behind you. We have heard the condemnation from few member states, from the Secretary General. But we all know that escalation did not begin today. It began when Iran armed proxies and exported terror, expanded missiles and drones, advanced its nuclear program in violation of its commitments, turned on its own people, beating, imprisoning, executing. Where was the outrage of the UN? Where were the consequences? Now, Israel acts to prevent an irreversible threat, and the condemnation is immediate. This is the definition of hypocrisy. Some call this aggression. We call it necessity. We call it survival. Mr. President, history has taught us never to ignore those who openly call for our destruction. When a regime says it will destroy Israel, when it chants death to Israel, when it promises to wipe Haifa and Tel Aviv off the map, we believe it. We genuinely believe it when we see those hundreds of ballistic missiles that they are launching to Israel. We believe the threats. We do not ignore them. We do not gamble with our survival. We act. Now let me address the brave people of Iran. You are not our enemies. This operation is not directed at you. It is directed at a regime that has silenced you, imprisoned you, and invested in missiles and uranium while your economy suffers. You deserve better. It is this regime, the Basij, the Revolutionary Guard, who have dragged your country into isolation. The world does not fear a free Iran. It fears a radical regime armed with nuclear weapons and driven by extremism. Your future should not be defined by those who chant for death. As President Trump has said, the Iranian people deserve dignity, security, and the chance to shape their own destiny. We are thinking about you. You are seen. You are not alone. The future of Iran belongs to its people. We stand with you. Mr.
All right, so we did want to play out a portion of those comments that we heard there from Danny Danon. He's the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, making those remarks in response to the ongoing conflict. We did want to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break, but on the other side, we're going to take things back to Capitol Hill. There's going to be an important discussion that's happening this week there for Congress. This, of course, all coming at the same time as GOP members of Congress are expected to be briefed this hour about the ongoing conflict. But we now know that lawmakers are also pushing for a vote on war powers after President Trump and the Israeli nation have launched those initial strikes on Iran over the weekend. We'll discuss that in much more detail after this.
All right, back to our other news reporter. Let's go forward.
In Texas, Austin's mass
there was a mass shooting in Texas as well.
property of Allah clothing and Iranian flag emblem, AP source says. This is being reported by other outlets too. The gunman who killed 2 people at a bar in Texas early Sunday in a mass shooting that left 14 others wounded was wearing a sweatshirt that said property of Allah and another shirt with an Iranian flag design, a law enforcement official told the Associated Press. It's a little loud. The shooter has been identified as 53-year-old Indiaga Diagne, who reportedly, Diagne was originally from Senegal. He came to the U.S. in 2006 and was a naturalized U.S. citizen. The FBI is investigating that shooting as a potential act of terrorism. The suspect in Austin used both a pistol and a rifle to carry out the attack. The suspect drove past the bar several times before stopping and shooting a pistol out the window of his SUV at people on a patio and in front of the bar. He then parked the vehicle, got out of the vehicle, and began shooting at people walking in the area before officers who rushed to the intersection shot him. The shooting happened outside Buford's Backyard Beer Garden just before 2 a.m. along 6th Street, a nightlife destination in Austin. Hang on a moment here. You know what? Someone just said, is that person alive? Is the shooter alive? I don't 100% know. I thought maybe he died, but let me double check and see.
Okay,
yes,
so I'm going to switch up. Shut up.
In that
Okay, I'm about to end it, and then I'm going to switch over to TikTok. But like the stream, subscribe. I'll see you guys later.